Hello and welcome to episode 100 of the Wisdom from the Akashic podcast. My name is Susie, I am your host, and I am an Akashic Records teacher and practitioner. Today I've picked the topic of gratitude, and before I get into gratitude as an energy, gratitude as a practice, I really just want to give my gratitude for all of you who are listening to this podcast episode, who share the podcast, who comment on the podcast. I honestly can't quite believe that I've made it to 100 episodes. For those of you who are with me from the start, you'll remember that I heard a statistic somewhere, whether or not it's true, I don't know. But the statistic said if you make 21 podcast episodes, that you're in the top 1% of podcasters. So that was my goal. I thought that's going to keep me going to episode 21. And I remember thinking when I heard this statistic that 21 episodes was a big ask. I remember thinking, what am I going to talk about for 21 episodes? And of course, when you start on a new journey, like making a podcast, like making content, everything takes a long time. Okay? So I remember thinking, am I going to be able to do this 21 times over? Of course, as you practice, as you progress, things get easier, the editing gets easier, all of that. So I'm quite astonished that I made it to episode 100. And of course, my intention is to continue on until the ideas stop flowing. But thankfully, the Akashic Records are very good to me. They give me all of these suggestions, all of these recommendations of the things that I want to talk about and that it's going to be helpful for you, the listeners, to hear. So I just want to give a minute of gratitude to you all for being here, for asking your questions, for reaching out to me and really letting me know how much the podcast helps. So now that that's out of the way, let's talk today a little bit about the energy of gratitude and what it is and how you can use it in your own spiritual practice. So from a levels of consciousness or levels of energy perspective, okay, so when I talk about levels of energy, levels of consciousness, I'm talking about the work done by consciousness researchers such as Fred Dodson, who you've heard me mention before here on the podcast, and also Dr. David Hawkins. So consciousness researchers are people who spend a lot of time very methodically, very scientifically researching consciousness. And of course, consciousness is a huge topic of spirituality. So from a level of consciousness perspective, the frequency of gratitude is 505, okay? 505 is very high in this density. So to be touching 505 in this density is uplifting, expanding your frequency. Now, for most people on planet Earth, their resonant frequency, so their baseline frequency, is not 505. Okay, there are people whose baseline frequency is 505 and above, but for the majority of people, that's not the case. But whilst it might not be your baseline, okay, whilst this might not be where you resonate all day, every day, it doesn't mean that you can't make use of the frequency to help you expand, to help you on your journey. And that's what I want to talk about today. So true gratitude, so gratitude at the level of 505 and above, is being grateful for everything life offers. And at this moment in time, you might hear that and go, okay, but you don't understand my life circumstances. Life is falling apart. I'm going through this really difficult time. I completely appreciate that. And for most people, being grateful for everything life has to offer is a bit of a stretch. But that doesn't mean that by us taking some time to work with the energy of gratitude that we can't benefit from it. So this level of 505 is total acceptance, okay? And when we talk about practicing surrender, this is where surrender is moving you towards. So the point of surrender is to be fully trusting in the divine, fully trusting in your ability to cope with whatever life throws at you. So not trying to change things, not trying to micromanage things, but allowing life to move through you. So this is where surrender is going to bring you to. And this shift into the 500s and 500 and above is from knowledge to love. It's from this linear worldview perspective, mind perspective, into a non-linear perspective, being able to hold bigger concepts, bigger understanding, and much, much deeper knowing. At this level, you're going to truly value intuition and imagination and be led by it. Okay, so it's this understanding that everything happens for a reason. It's trusting everything as it's unfolding and it's allowing yourself to be led. At this level as well, what happens is there's less identification with the I, me, mine, the ego, the who am I as an individual, and you become more identified with the field. Okay, so whether you want to call that the quantum field, the Akashic field, doesn't matter, but this field of intelligence that runs through everything that spiritual traditions have talked about since the beginning of time. So that's the energy of gratitude. That's the frequency of gratitude. That's how high and how important it is from a levels of consciousness perspective. Now, an important thing to note with gratitude and working with gratitude is you can't force it and you can't fake it. Okay. And what I mean by that is you can't just, for example, write in your journal 100 times, I am grateful for having food in my cupboards, if you don't actually feel grateful for having food in your cupboards. The feeling is the most important when it comes to a gratitude practice. So it's about connecting to the energy of gratitude. So getting into the frequency rather than just parroting some words. And by having a gratitude practice, it's really going to help your present moment awareness, okay? So by taking some time out to have a gratitude practice, it's bringing you into that present moment. It's stopping you from going into the future, planning goals, what you want, what you don't have, what went wrong in the past, all of that noise, and it puts you into the here and now. So how do we do this? How can we work with gratitude, the energy of gratitude? So the first thing to do before you're going to do any type of gratitude work is just to take a couple of minutes with yourself, just settling into your own energy, your own breath, seeing what's coming up. And if stuff is coming up, if you have a to-do list rattling through your head, take a minute just to write all of that stuff down. By writing it down, you're signifying to the brain, okay, I know that that needs to be done. I'm going to deal with it. Okay? So just take a couple of minutes to settle into your own energy, your own resonant frequency. And then when you're in your own energy, you know you've got yourself centered, think about everything that you have to be grateful for. And you can start really small with this. You can start with things like, I am grateful to have this air to breathe. Okay, I am grateful to have running water available to me at all times. I'm grateful to have the love of my dog. Okay, it doesn't matter what it is that you're grateful for. What matters is the getting into the energetic frequency of the gratitude. So when you're saying the statement out loud, when you're writing it down, however you feel you best connect to it, take it slowly, don't rush it, and just focus on getting into the energy of gratitude. Now, you might feel yourself shift up, you might feel your heart expanding, but by sitting in the energy, it's going to help start to adjust your field, your light grid. Now, you might not be able to hold this for very long to start with, and that's completely okay. You might not quite get there. You might feel that there's some resistance to that. That's great too. That's giving you information that you can take into your practice. Why do I find it so hard to be grateful for something? Is it perhaps that my nervous system is so dysregulated that I can't be grateful for anything because I'm just in fight or flight? Okay? All of it's information that can help you expand and evolve. Now, for those of you who want to perhaps bring your gratitude practice up a level, maybe you've been doing this for a while and you're like, okay, I'm ready for the next level. A more advanced practice is to follow those steps that I just talked about. So getting into the energy of gratitude, being in that frequency, and then bringing something in that ordinarily you would not be grateful for. Okay, so for example, you could bring in, I am grateful for the energy of fear that has arisen today, as it shows me where I am in resistance, because fear is an energy of the ego. So it's going to show you where you're in resistance. Or I'm grateful for my boss at work who is horrible to me and dislikes me and triggers me, because they're showing me where I am still blocked, where I have stuff that I need to work through. Maybe I need to be more assertive. Maybe I need to have better boundaries. Maybe I need to look at what it is that difficult person in my life is trying to teach me. Okay? The important thing if you're going to go to the advanced practice is to make sure you're in the frequency of gratitude first. So go with those small things that you can be grateful for. Then bring these other things in and then watch what happens. So a lot of the time, you'll be able to get really good into the energy of gratitude and hold it while you're thinking of all the things that you're grateful for. But then you bring something in that's a little bit difficult and you might feel you start to drop the frequency, or you might feel that your heart starts to close. Okay, if that happens, that's okay. That's where the work is. So I hope you found this helpful. I hope it's given you a little bit of an insight into a gratitude practice, how maybe you can bring that into your own daily practice. And as I said, go slow with it, don't rush it, and just focus on the frequency. Having a gratitude practice does not mean you're going to start resonating at that 505 frequency. So don't panic if you have a gratitude practice, you do it for a month and you're like, okay, why haven't I fully surrendered? Why am I not in this as a baseline frequency? Lots of work happens before you get to it as a baseline frequency. Okay, but it can absolutely help you to start to see where there is resistance, where there is energetic stagnation, and where there is maybe stuff that is stopping you being able to be in that expanded frequency of 505. So I hope you found this episode helpful. I look forward to seeing you all next week for the next episode. And of course, thank you once again for being here and being a listener of the podcast. It's always appreciated.